So we learned earlier that how we are saving the data, we are using variable. So let's say we have student number 1. So earlier we used, if you want to save the name, so we need to write the variable name student 1 equal to Danish. So we save a student name. And let's say we want to save another student. So we need to write student 2 equal to Farhan. So if we have a lot of student, maybe 100, 200, then we need to have student 1, student 2, student 3, and so on and so on. So this is not really convenient. So this is where we use list. So only one variable name, but it contains a lot of data. So if we want to save a lot of many students, so let's say we have 3 students, so we want to save. So the variable students, we make it as a list. So how we make it as a list is we use square bracket, the variable name equal to square bracket. Then here where we store all the names, the value inside the bracket. So let's say the first student we have Danish, second student we have Farhan, and next we have Michael. So now we only have one variable name, which is students, but it contains 3 different data, 3 different items inside it. And so this is will be really convenient for us to save many item inside a list. So how we going to access the list? So we have the variable name and we have the item inside it. So how we are going to access it? So one way to access the variable inside the list is by indicating the index of the item in the list. So let's say we have Danish here, and okay, before that, in list, the index will always start at 0. It will be 0, and the next index is 1, and the next index is 2, and so on and so on. So here, Danish here will be saved in index 0. Farhan will be saved in index 1, while Michael will be saved in index 2. So when we are going to access it, so we need to put the index at the end of the variable name. So print, so let's say we want to print to display Farhan. So print, open bracket, the list name, students, and square bracket. And in the square bracket, you indicate the index. So Farhan is at index 1. So students, square bracket 1. So when we click run, we can see that it display Farhan. So if we want to display Michael, the same thing, we change the index to number 2. So then we got it display Michael. But let's say we don't know how long the list we have, but we want to display the last item that we have in the list. So what we can do is, if the first index is 0 and the last index will be -1. So when we print students -1, so it will display the last item in the list. No matter how long the list is, it will always display the last one. Okay. One thing that is really special in list is, before this, like, we have variable and we have one value, and that variable will be specific at certain data type. Let's say if you save names, it will be a string data type. If you save number, it will be integer data type or float data type. But in list, you can mix all the data type. It can be string, it can be integer, it can be float, or it can be all of them. So let's say I've named one list called mix and equal to open bracket. So let's say the first item in the list, we have a number, let's say 23. But then the second item in the list, we have a string. So let's say Malaysia. And the third item in the list is let's say a float number, 3.142. So if we print mix, it will list out all the item that contain inside the mix list. So, and it will never break the program because list can have many type of data type inside the list. So you can mix all of them together in one list. So there is no problem. Okay. So let's try to manipulate the list that we have. Let's say we have two lists. Let's say student A, student A and student B. So we have two group of student list. So let's say another group is John, and we have Mike, and we have Ali. So we have two lists of students. But let's say we want to combine two lists and we want to make a single long list. So what we can do is we can look back what we learned before. What we did before is when we have a string, we can combine them by using plus. So here in list, we also can combine lists by using plus. But you cannot use other you cannot use other operation like minus, divide, or multiply. Only plus. So this operation is called concatenation. So how you do that is by introducing a new name variable name. So let's say total students. So total students will contain students in students A group and students B group. So you need to add up those two lists. So students A plus student B. So when you print total students, so you can see that okay, this is an error here. Okay, students. You can see that the list now have been combined. So we have Danish, Farhan, Michael, John, Mike, and Ali. All of them is stored in one list, which is total student. Before this, we have two separate lists, but now we have one single list. Okay, let's move on to another things. So let's say you have a list, but you don't know how many, you don't know where is the item located inside the list. So we have Danish in, let's say in total student, we have Danish in index 0, we have Farhan in the index 1, and so on until Ali in index 5. But let's say you don't know, you have a really long list, but you know which item you want to find and you want to display. Let's say you want Michael, but you don't know the index of Michael. So we can use function called index to find the location of Michael in the list. So what we can do is we can introduce another variable, let's say location log equal to the list total students dot index. So dot index open bracket. So here is you enter the item you want to search in the list. So we want to find Michael in the list, the index of Michael in the list. So we need to enter Michael here. And you need to note that in Python it's all case sensitive. So if Michael all is lower letter, make sure write Michael in all lower letter. So if let's say you want to find John, make sure the J is in capital letter. So when you want to find Michael, so total students, the list, and dot index open bracket Michael. So we print the location of the location of Michael. So here we can see it display number 2. It shows that the Michael is located in index 2 in total student list. So other thing we can do is, let's say we have the index and we want to find out how many times that we have the same item in the list. So let's say we have Danish, Farhan, Michael, and I add one more, let's say Ali here. Ali with capital A, Ali. So let's say I want to find out how many times Ali appear in our list. So one function that we can use is we can use function count. So what this function did is actually he go through all the list and count how many times the item that we want to find appear in the list. So what we do is, let's say this name count, and count equal to total student dot count, and the item you want to find out how many times it appear, which is Ali in this example. So we want to find how many times the Ali appear. So if you run the code, you see that Ali is appearing 2 times in the list. So let's say we change to Farhan. So when we run the code, it shows that only one Farhan appear in the list. So now we finish doing count function, index function, and concatenation in list. So next, we have a long list. Let's say we have a long list, really long, longer than this maybe. So in program, so you don't have to manually count manually count how many items you have in a list. So what we can do when we want to find out how many items in the list is we can use function called len. The same function that we use in string before this, which in string it return how many alphabet contained in the string variable, but in list, when we are using len function, it will return how many items contained in a list. So let's say after we we combine student A list and student B list. So after we combine, we want to find out how many items actually contained inside the list. So we are going to use len list. So total student dot len, open and close bracket. There is no argument inside the open close bracket. So when you print count, okay, so okay, sorry, this is not how the syntax how we should do that. Actually, len open and close bracket and the list name. So the total students. So when we run using the len function, it will return how many items contained in the student list. So in the total student list. So here you can see the total students length will be stored in count variable. So when we print count, it displays 7. So which mean it actually store 7 item inside it. So up here you can see that it has Danish, Farhan, Michael, and Ali 4 item in student A, while 3 item in student B. So when we combine, we have total of 7 item. So and it is different from index, where index it start from 0, but for counting, for length, everything will start normally. So it basically written how many the length, the item contained in the list. Okay, so next, okay, so we have learn len. So let's try to make adjustment to our list. So let's say we have already registered for item, which is in student A, we have Danish, Farhan, Michael, and Ali. So let's say we want to add a new students in the list. So there are many ways. So one of the way is we are using append function. So let's say here, okay, we are going to add a new student name, maybe Kiara. So students A dot append. So basically we are trying to add the new student, the new item inside the students A list. So students A dot append, open close bracket, and enter Kiara. So basically we will register a new item inside student A. We will store a new item, which is in this case is Kiara. So when we print again students A, so here we can see that it's now Danish, Farhan, Michael, Ali, and Kiara. So what append function do is when you add a new item, the new item will be placed at the end of the list. So basically at the end. So a new item you add, it will be at the end. So let's say you add another one. So let's say now we have Kiara at the last item. If you add maybe Jonathan, so like Jonathan will be after Kiara. So other than using append, let's say you don't want to add the item at the last part of the list. So you want to add it at the middle, maybe, or in front. So we can use a function called insert. So when we are using function called insert, it's just like append students A dot append. Now students A dot insert. So the first part in the argument, in the bracket, the argument, we need to mention at what index. So if we have let's say we know that students A, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 index. Index 0 to index 3, we have 4 items inside. So let's say we want to add the items at the front part of the list. So we know that the front part, the most front part of the list is at index 0. So you need to mention 0 and comma the item you want to add. So now the Kiara will be at the in front of the list. So when we run it, you can see now when we are using append, it is in the end, at the end of the list. Now it is in front. So let's say you want to add it in between Danish and Farhan. So Danish is in index 0, Farhan is index 1. So you want to put it in between Danish and Farhan. So now it will be Kiara at index 1. So index 1, Kiara. So you see that Danish, Kiara, Farhan, Michael, Ali. So you just change the index where you want to place the new item. Okay. So next, okay, we have trying to make an adjustment, add a new item in the list. So let's say after we all the item inside the list, we want to display the list in maybe in its ascending number, or maybe in alphabetical order. So we can use function called sort. So let's say now you look at the student A, we have Danish, Farhan, Michael, and Ali. You can see that all the item is actually not in alphabetical order. All is jumbled up. So you want to sort students A. So what we can do is we are using student dot sort. So we are using sort function. So there's no argument inside. So student A dot sort. So when we use this function, it will sort the student A list and then store again in student A list. So you don't have to initiate a new variable name. So again, students A dot sort, and after that just print student A. So you see now before this we have Danish, Farhan, Michael, and Ali. But when we sort the list, we got Ali, Danish, Farhan, and Michael. Okay, but let's see if, let's say, I put Ali in A in small letter and this Michael in a capital letter M. When we perform the sort function, now you can see that Michael is at the front part of the list. So why this is happening? If we using sort function, it basically sort the name with capital letter first. So it start with capital letter first, from A to Z, then small letter A to Z. And if we have numbers, it will be prioritize the number. So we start from 0 to infinity. Then the program will look at the string which have a capital letter and then go to small letter. So that's why we see here we have Michael, then Ali, Danish, Farhan, because Michael with capital N, so it prioritizes the capital letter. So if we are manipulating the data, sometimes we need to remove the data. Let's say we are doing database for school, so they are storing student database. So after a few years the student leave the school, so we need to delete the data. So how we delete the data, we have few ways. So one way is basically we are using delete function. So delete, del for delete, and the function name, the list name, sorry. So let's say we want to delete Mike in student B list. So delete them student B, and then open bracket, square bracket. So here you need to specifically mention the index. So if you use delete function, del function, you need to know the item index. So if we know the item index, then we can directly use it. So like say I want to delete Mike, so I know that in student B, the Mike located in index 1. So I just mentioned it, student B, square bracket 1. So print student B. So now after we delete, okay, sorry, here. So here we can see after we delete item in index 1, which is Mike, now we left with John and Ali. But let's say if you want to use delete function, but you don't know the location of the items. Let's say we use total student, which we combine the students A and student B. So we also want to delete Mike in that list, but we don't know what is the index of Mike. So we can use the things that we learned before, which is index. So in square bracket, students B dot index, and in open bracket you need to write Mike. So basically let's say in total student. So let's say we don't know the location of Mike in total student. Print total student. So now you can see that when we combine the index function and total student and delete function, so we can locate where is the location of Mike in the total student function. If you don't like to write like this, let's say you think like, oh, this is mixing all up, so it make you confused. So you can just add a new variable, maybe call location log equal to total students dot index in bracket Mike. So here when you want to delete, you just put variable name log. So it will performing the same thing, but like maybe now it's more convenient for you to see. It's much more easier. So other than that, if let's say you think like we don't want to use index, it's just adding another more jobs, so it's not really efficient. So we can use another function called remove, which will remove a specific item or value in the list. So how we do that is the list name total, let's say total student, we are using total student list, total student dot remove, and then in bracket the item that you want to remove. So I want to remove Mike, so just enter Mike. So when we print total student, it also do the same thing. But let's say you see here we have two Ali, like make it the same. So we have two Ali with small letter A. So let's say we want to remove Ali. So what this function did is the program go through the list and try to find Ali. but the program only delete the first ali that the program found. So that's why the last ali is not deleted. That is all for today's session. We are already covering simple output, data type, data type conversion, format specifier, and list. So all these 5 things, I would like for you to try out on your own a different thing. Maybe you have another idea and try to do it and learn from mistake. If you got problems, you just ask our facilitator and they will help you. That's all from today. Thank you.